So Landon has to eat live spiders, and Madeline wins a trip to Florida. Welcome to Dragula.
Fishy. This is a term that has caused quite the uproar in the drag community at points, but that's not what we're going to be talking about today. Today we're going to be talking about what's fishy with Dragula Exterminations. Hey everyone, welcome back to the second episode of my show, Ep2, where we are examining the product design of pop culture. And y'all, we are in for a treat today because we will be examining the Boulet brothers' Dragula and the possibility of their exterminations being rigged. Does that sound right to y'all, or does that sound a bit crazy? We'll have to get into it. So Dragula and Drag Race kind of occupy two different niches in the drag reality TV show competition market. We all know Drag Race is on MTV. It's a lot more mainstream. It's a lot more sort of pumped out to the masses. And Dragula is a lot more underground, and it's more subversive, and it's a bit more experimental, and it's a bit more inclusive of different types of artists, which is a really big point for it and something that makes it really special in the sort of modern content landscape. Now, you can go on YouTube and find so much content about how Drag Race is rigged, but I want to talk about Dragula today. With the latest season of Dragula, also with their recent sort of All-Stars season, Dragula is entering a new paradigm where it is a lot more popular, it's reaching a lot more people, and they're able to get their message across a lot more. So it makes sense that Dragula also has the same incentive to, not maybe fully rig, but if they have a preference of who they want to stay or who they want to go home, is Dragula the kind of show that would do some fiddling with the extermination to try and get it to go one way? Or is that something that they would stay away from, and all of these are supposed to be more fair and it's not supposed to have that element of rigging? So for this video, we are going to be going through some different exterminations on Dragula and examining how, even though it's not a lip sync, it can't be rigged in the same way that a lip sync can be. How can the Boulet brothers or production have these other variables that they can control to maybe get their desired outcome? So if you're into getting into what's fishy with me, stay tuned. So with that, let's get into what we came here to talk about, the spooky girls. So I've been into Dragula recently, and especially this new season, season 5, has felt like a really big turning point in terms of the cinematography, the production value, how they go about the storytelling, the fact that the Boulets are actually producers behind the camera directing the contestants. All of this stuff to me feels like a big turning point for the series. So that's why I want to talk about it today, and that's why I want to look at, as they grow, are they going to have the same incentive that Drag Race does to push things one way or the other so that they can get the reality TV that they want? Or does Dragula steer from that entirely and they want it to be as fair as possible? So, for some context, we all know Drag Race does their lip syncs and Dragula does their exterminations. And the exterminations, for someone who might not be familiar, I can summarize it very well for you. Dragula exterminations are, for lack of a better term, doing something very horrible. You have to do something very horrible if you want to stay on Dragula. And this can take the form of many different things. So for example, being buried alive while bugs, water, and dirt are thrown in your face is one. Another one that was quite gruesome was eating as much pig brain as possible without using your hand. But the worst Dragula extermination out of all of them is actually the one where they made the contestants watch one of my videos for 20 minutes straight. That was sick. So what I'm getting at here is that even though the exterminations are sort of shown to us as each one is its own unique thing that is special to the theming of that episode, the Boulet brothers can only think of so many ideas realistically. There's only so many ways that they can mess with these contestants. So because of that, we see things kind of repeating, the same style of challenge being repeated in different ways. And this lends itself to certain kinds of challenges being more having the potential to be fair or rigged than other ones, and then they can place those challenges strategically at points throughout the season to have things go their way. So if it's a matter of how much pain are you willing to endure to stay in this competition, what does that look like if the production can actually directly control how much pain you're in? So this is where we get into a very big category of the Dragula exterminations. It almost seems to be the most common out of all of them. And this is some form of electroshock challenge.
Oh my god.
Don't act shocked.
So the thing with all these other challenges is production doesn't have as much control over how it goes, like throwing them off a cliff or like covering them in bugs or having them transport maggots with their mouth. Production can't control a lot of that. It really comes down to the contestants. But electroshock stuff,
Oh my god.
Don't act shocked.
can be entirely controlled by production. And we see these electro eliminations very commonly throughout all of Dragula. It's almost something like bugs, something that's a staple, something that you can expect to see during a Dragula season. And that makes me wonder, as Dragula grows and they have more financial incentive to have certain story arcs, there's way more money to be made with a good reality TV show. There's way more money to be made if that one story arc can just go the way that you want it. So to be specific, I want to talk about season 5. So all of the extermination challenges in season 5 up to episode 4 seem pretty fair to me. It really seems like that could have gone either which way. It seems like they kind of just let the dice roll with those. Now episode 4 with the spontaneous lip sync is where I think that something a little fishy started to happen. So my theory is that they wanted Jarvis gone early, not because Jarvis is a bad drag artist, but because Jarvis has the unique backstory of being a ghost that was originally a person that was crushed by a spotlight on stage and then came back as a ghost. So to me, it almost seems like they wanted Jarvis on the season, have us all get to know him, all that stuff, and then have this sort of happen in narrative as a thing to talk about of like, oh my god, like this actually happened on the show. Jarvis actually got killed in the first season by a spotlight.
Lip sync roulettes are not what I do. I did the best that I could under the circumstances, but the shock just completely threw me off my game. I might have gotten my shit rocked by this extermination, but this isn't the last you've seen of Jarvis Hammer. After all, I am a ghost.
So then once enough time has gone by and Jarvis is all good with that Klonopin, all the anxiety, you know, Jarvis is in maybe a better place to compete, to be more of a fierce competitor, let's bring him back for Titans, because Dragula has not had, for lack of a better term, a comedy queen. Jarvis isn't a queen, but where are the funny girls? Where is jokes? Where are the jokes? Jarvis will tell you a joke. Jarvis will tell you a joke, and I feel like this is a setup for us all to sort of pay more attention to Jarvis of like, oh my god, like I was really into Jarvis during the season, and I was so upset that he was taken out so early. But don't act shocked when you see the next Titans cast or a couple years down the line and Jarvis gags everyone within an inch of their life and is the next winner and fills that niche of being the funny one. To me, that feels like that was the setup, because Jarvis versus JK, it was very apparent that JK was a better performer in that particular context. But long story short, okay, we're gonna humiliate Jarvis a little bit. We're gonna give him this crazy execution as a setup for sort of the future of our franchise. That to me was the sort of riggery of episode 4. They wanted him gone. So getting into that, the next 2 episodes are kind of the ones where it gets a little fishy. Episodes 6 and 7 of season 5 of Dragula both feature an electro extermination.
Oh my god.
Don't act shocked.
And when I saw this, I was thinking like they're doing these exterminations because it allows them to sort of have it go one way or the other. And when you look at who was taking part in these exterminations, the people that they got rid of were JK and Cynthia, who were really, really big players in the season. Cynthia was big on the narration, and JK was kind of giving everyone else a story arc in a way. So these are big names that they need to find a way to get rid of. So this is the main thing here. This is obviously entirely unconfirmed, and the Boulets say they test the exterminations on themselves, so you know, again, this is just my little crazy theory, but with these electro exterminations, specifically, the first one was a alien birth simulator where they're hooked up at various points and shocked with things that are supposed to represent giving birth at specific voltages at certain intervals. And the next one was an electro maze, to where if they went through a certain laser, their shock collar would shock them, and whoever got to the exit first would get to live. So with the birthing simulator and like the electroshock maze thing, they're gonna pitch it to us like, you know, they're both getting the same volt of electricity, and no one who's watching it is probably gonna think about if they're getting shocked with different levels. But if they want JK gone so that they can focus on other people's storylines, there's no way as the audience we can tell if JK's birthing simulator was maybe more intense so that JK was more likely to tap out before Fantasia, because Fantasia is the one that we want to stay and finish her story arc, and we can end JK's story arc here. So in the next episode, what's interesting is they say before the extermination that they're going to be shocking them with 10,000 volts of electricity. So that's what they're gonna say. But realistically, do you think the Boulay brothers and the production would leave up to chance if Orgotic makes it to the finale and if Cynthia goes home now? Because at that point, it was kind of Cynthia's time, and Orgotic always seemed like the kind of player in the season they want at the end to see the full 3 tenets. So how do we know? There's no way we can actually fully tell what they're being shocked with. So what if Orgotic's shock is a little bit less so that he can get through the maze easier, and Cynthia's is more than Orc's so that she falls down and cannot complete the maze because she's getting shocked with way more electricity? That right there is my question here of, is Dragula rigged? Do the producers want to do something like that where they want the results to go a specific way? We need Orc in the finale. We need to get rid of JK at this point. Or are they kind of okay if it goes the other way? Would the production company be okay if JK went on longer and maybe took up more attention from other storylines? Or would they be okay if Orgotic got eliminated and we didn't get to see any more of his particular stuff? How does that fall? Obviously, I can't answer that because I don't work for the show, and the Boulay brothers seem to have a lot of integrity with this. It doesn't seem like they would want to rig it, but what I thought was interesting was how these particular challenges line up with these narrative shifts, and then how there's no way as the audience we can tell exactly what's happening. And this is different from some of the other exterminations, like let's just say grinding up a lot of brains and guts in a blender and giving it to both of them and whoever finishes it first. A blender can't be rigged. If they're getting poured the same thing, that's just gonna be fair. But when it comes to these critical points in the season, when it comes to this critical point in the series where it's their biggest season, they're getting to the very end, do they wanna leave that up to chance, or do they wanna make sure that what they want to happen will happen? So I wanna ask you guys now, let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think the producers of Dragula would want to rig it to have it go their way, or do you think they're all about the fairness of it and it kind of just worked out well for them? I think how these reality TV shows choose to rig or not rig their competitions is a really interesting thing to look at now that these shows are becoming way bigger and a lot more people are watching them. So I definitely want to hear what you guys have to think about this, and then I'll read some of those comments in the next video, which will be about Mama Ru. We all saw that Essentials Volume 3 cover. We all saw RuPaul looking at the camera like, it's Mama Ru. So we're going to be talking about why that Essentials album was actually a very good business move for this particular point in the Drag Race paradigm. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely subscribe and stay tuned. Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me throughout this whole thing, listening to my cuckoo rambling, and I'll see you guys on the other side when we talk about Mama Ru, 'cause I know y'all are dying to hear about Mama. Yeah. Okay, so I want to end this video by introducing you guys formally to my fish. Her name is Ella because she's a salmon, and I want to ask one more question of if you guys thought that Neo's finale looks kind of matched what she showed throughout the season. So obviously they only have a week to do 3 looks, which is kind of a lot, so you can kind of see how each look kind of becomes minimized a bit when you have to do 3 of them in the time that they might have time to do 1 entire look. But I kind of thought the horror and the glamour wasn't as like fully formed as some of the other stuff that she's shown. And the thing is, on Dragula, we all know what the finale's gonna be. We all know what you have to show. So in my head, I'm like, why not start working on those or planning it since day one? Why not sort of flesh out your concepts and figure out how you can build it like throughout the whole season, you know? And then it kind of gets to the end and then you're at a crunch for time and then it might be, you know, lacking an element or two. Obviously, I still think all three looks were cool and she did a good job, but let me know what you think about that in the comments because I just want to open up that little discussion point. So we're gonna end the video the same way it started by slapping my fish against the camera. So I'll see you guys out there. Thanks for playing.